I think I always made the comment that once a miller, always a miller.
Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! Good Evans, he's done it again. Another promotion for the big man.
I've got 12 bottles of champagne in my office and we're going to drink them all night.
Do me a favour, drop me off in Rotherham.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to New York Talk, the Rotherham United podcast. And it's back to Rotherham United stuff. No more Euros, no more England. Let's just talk about the best club in the world, which also breaks us heart as much as England, I suppose. We have got a special episode tonight where we're going to go through some of Rotherham's best ever players and see if we can get a bit of a squad together for we'll go through it in a bit more detail in a moment. Mick's with us for giving us the look back to the 50s and so. Mick, how are you doing tonight?
The 50s and pre-war.
Yeah. How you doing, Mick?
I'm all right, mate. You?
Very, very good. Weather's come on it. We've got a proper bit of summer for a couple of days, which is quite nice. Ben, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ben. Ben's positive
worries,
vibe
mate.
radiating through the airways, as always. So basically this is a bit of a project that's coming up. So obviously next year we all know is the centenary year for the football club, and they're doing a few projects together. And we want to try and get a list of players together that are the greatest. And I think the community sports are kind of planning something around that. So we're going to try and get a kind of a squad. People always do greatest 11s, and I think that narrows it down really makes it really difficult. So we're going to do a kind of a greatest squad. So a couple of goalkeepers, a couple of right backs, proportionate rounds, that kind of thing. One of the great things of doing this live is that you people are watching live in the comments and can keep telling us players that we forgot about. I think last time we did it, Mick, I think YouTube, you both would have been here. I think we did it all pre-recorded at the time. And then I remember after we did it, I think we got lots of stick from lots of people for missing out certain people. Rightly so, to be fair.
We got some stick from some people that we'd missed out as well.
Yeah, that as well. So this time, if we miss anybody, we don't have to take the full blame. You guys in the comments can take the blame as well, partial blame as well. So it's a team effort. A couple YouTuber says good evening, one and all. Another one in you mentioned the signing. We'll talk about signings, departures on Sunday. We're going to do a full roundup episode of the last couple of weeks. Information on Sunday, Monday if you're an audio listener. Mike Connell's with us, as well as Paula Rhodes and Alan Cox. Gav Gundy says Bobby Williamson was one of the greatest. JB mentions Arneson, the Prince, best player ever had. Martin Ronaldo out of the game in the Euros. Yes, he did. So we're starting from a base. Like I mentioned, we did do something a couple of years ago. Do you know how long ago it was we did this, lads?
Go on.
4 years ago we last did the greatest 11.
Really?
Yeah. So we'll do it in like a Euros cycle. It makes sense to do it 4 years.
Yeah.
Because some will get into this. So the greatest 11 that was picked, this was voted on our Twitter pages last time as well. So it wasn't just us. But I'll run through it because I think a lot of these will still make the squad we're going to go through. We've got Mike Pollitt in goal. Jerry Forrest was as a right back. Martin McIntosh and Carry On some of the two centre backs, with John Brecken at left back. Ben Pringle left winger. Frex and Volks were the two centre midfielders. Volks may be controversial nowadays. Tony Towner was the right winger, and the two strikers picked were Bobby Williamson and Adam Lafondra. Let's start with those. I think most of those will get straight in, Mick, because the only one for me worth mentioning is Will Volks. I think there was a bit of recency bias, as they now refer to it now, that he just left us. So I think he was still very popular.
Yeah, I think you're right. When you told me that was that Volksy were in there before we came on air, I was quite surprised, to say the least. The rest, 100%. So that's half of this episode done already. Well, I disagree with a couple actually, but we'll come on to it, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, there's some serious footballers in there, some proper footballers in there.
In the just. Ben, any kind of surprises looking back now that they all got that was the 11?
I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure how much I can contribute to this because I've only heard of 3 or 4 of them. Well, I've only seen 3 or 4 of them play, heard of the rest, but I think Volks probably, like I said, a bit of a recency bias until he went to somewhere that shall not be named. I'm joking. I don't have any problem with him going there, but I don't think, he's probably not top 2 central midfielders that we've ever had.
No.
To be fair, Ben, you said that. A lot of our best players have come over maybe the last 10 years or so, to be fair.
Maybe.
So,
Didn't we have a centre mid and that played for England? What was his name?
a centre defender, Dave Watson, didn't get into that great.
No, it was someone else. Oh, it was someone else. He played for Villa.
What? A centre midfielder?
It might have been a central. I don't know if he was a central midfielder or not. I can't remember.
We had Emlyn Hughes, who were England.
Emlyn Hughes.
Liverpool.
Arsenal.
Liverpool. But we can't hold that against him.
Anyway, let's add some structure into this because this could just go anywhere. So we're going to start as you would expect from back to front. So we're going to go through the ones we've got. People in the comments, feel free to chuck in. We've got some comments already for midfielders and whatnot, which we'll come through to as well. But let's start with the goalkeepers, Mick. Mike Pollock got in originally. We'll come on to maybe who the other keeper's going to be in this squad, which I think I know the answer. But Mike Pollock is still well up there as a great keeper.
I don't think I picked him last time. See, I'm glad it comes to me. I didn't pick him. I think I probably picked Ray Mountford as keeper. I loved Ray Mountford. Lovely man and a hell of a keeper. So I'm sacking Pollock off for me. And I'm gonna say Ray Mountford, and now Richard's just thrown one. Richard's just thrown one into the mix there in terms of Roy Tunks, who he was keeper when I first started watching Rotherham United, and he was a top class keeper. But for me, Ray Mountford takes it hands down. Takes it hands down. He takes a second slot hands down.
He takes a second slot behind Mike Pollock.
No.
Oh.
No. I mean, he takes a second slot, obviously behind Victor, clearly.
Okay. I was good at that. Matt Miller says Mountford and Johansson. He says Scott Glennie mentions Matt Clark, who was a very good keeper back in the day. Scott Glennie says Bobby Mims. No, I don't remember the best of Bobby Mims. I don't think second time around. But
a good keeper, a great keeper. We've had some absolutely fantastic goalkeepers in our time, and we're talking here: Victor Janssen, Ray Mountford, Matt Clark, Bobby Mims, Roy Tunks. I've got a soft spot for, mainly because I was very young and he was the keeper, at that time. So there's been some unbelievable keepers, some really fantastic goalkeepers. But as I'm agreeing with Mike again, this is getting to be a bit dangerous. Victor Johansson and Ray Mountford stand head and shoulders for me above all of them.
Okay, Ben, talk to me about Victor Johansson. Obviously, he's left this summer, gone to Stoke City. Obviously, like you say, you've not watched Rotherham for as long as me or even Mick, but surely Victor's must be one of the best keepers we've ever had.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really watched football, gone to a football game that's not really Rotherham, but I mean, this season, especially Victor, that one, the save against Sunderland, where he's kind of like going left, it's deflected, he's tipped onto the post. Some of the best saves I've ever seen. It was just incredible. Obviously, I don't really the keepers. I remember Scott Shearer, Lee Camp, stuff like that. So,
Warrington, you remember Warrington, don't you?
Yeah, Warrington, but ish. And what was his name? Price.
Oh, Lewis Price.
Lewis Price. So they're the keepers that I've known. So when we got Rodackers, and we kind of built up to Johansson because he was a really good Rodack. But I think, in my opinion, I don't really know a lot of history, but I think Victor's got to be number one unless there's a real standout. Yeah,
I think the thing that puts Victor above everybody else is the spectacular became normal. The saves he made were just that's a great save. It's just Victor, isn't it? It's just Victor just doing Victor things, and that's a dangerous thing for fans to kind of get used to. And it will be next season. We've got to get used to a different level of goalkeeping next season. Cam Dawson, I'm sure, is a great keeper, and we saw Dylan Phillips is obviously a very, very good keeper. But they're different levels to Victor. So that's going to be... We've got to change our standards, haven't we?
I think Mick's got to get the final say on this one, though, because didn't he used to play in net?
Mick did used to play in goal. Mick can't.
I think he's got to get the final say on this one.
So I've gone for this is my setup currently: 2 goalkeepers, 2 right backs, 2 left backs, 4 centre halves, 4 left wingers, 4 right wingers, 2 of those 2, 4 central midfielders, 4 attackers. That does leave us 22. So we've got wiggle room to add an extra player or 2 in areas if we need to. We've got work. We've got wiggle room.
I think we saved that.
Well, we'll save it. Victor's in. So what we're saying for the other one, we were taking Mike Pollitt out because I thought Mike Pollitt was an excellent keeper.
It was. It weren't. It was no Ray Mountford though.
Okay,
that's my view. And a few other people in the comments have mentioned that as well, including obviously other names as well. But Ray Mountford was a keeper in that 80-81 season, that championship winning season, and without him, I accept without a lot of the other players as well, but without Ray Mountford, that season wouldn't have happened. But as we go through tonight, I'm sure I'm going to be saying that again.
Okay, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll put a star next to Polly because he might get in as a third keeper if we've got space. But Victor and Ray Mountford were going as our 2 keepers so far. A couple of honourable mentions for Michael Connell says Adam Collins. Well, he maybe wasn't the best keeper, but he had one of the best moments as a goalkeeper that a club has ever had at Rotherham United. Shirley says Paul Petty needs to get a mention for the best. If there was an award for the best second keeper, I'm pretty sure Paul Petty would get it. Because he was a really good keeper.
What's the criteria for this? Is it best player or what they did for us? Because I think you've got to go off, and there's a certain individual that we're going to have a testimonial for, which is not the best we've ever had, but in terms of what he did for the club. What's the criteria for this?
Well, shall we discuss that when we get to that man?
Okay.
This is a good point, well made. So those are the 2 keepers that we're going to put in. Eric Holly mentioned Troy Phillips, Alan Crawford. Are they? But they're both before my time. But I assume they're both.
Yeah, they're not keepers.
Oh no, okay, fair enough. Okay, right back. Now, from what I remember last time, there were 2 areas. Say again.
I said we'll come back to them in a bit.
Okay, yeah. We'll go right backs. Last time we did this, there were 2 kind of problem areas: right backs and left wing, because there's a couple of names that shout out to you, but there's not much depth. So right back, mate, we've got Jerry Forrest. Just tell people about Jerry Forrest because he is the people that saw him. He's talked of in very glowing terms.
Absolute quality. Probably the best right back I've ever seen. As Ben talked about watching Victor live, you know, he is probably live the best right back I've ever seen. Just got everything, absolutely everything. Again, 80-81 season as well. He was just phenomenal. Was Jerry Forrest, and I think Mike's put there. He went to Southampton, where he so it was kind of a big move for him. I think he got injured and didn't really perform to the level that he had for us. But absolutely one of the best footballers that I've seen live, let alone right backs, but in his position, just awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Like I said, Mike Miller says Jerry Forrest was the classiest fullback the club's ever had. His first spell came back after the Southampton, but not the same after a bad knee injury. Paula Rhodes and Scott Grundy also say Jerry Forrest. Paula says Jerry Forrest was her mum's favourite player. Scott Grundy says he likes Ali Pickering, and Kelly Bob says James Tavernier was right back. He wasn't bad.
I was going to say that, but he wasn't immense for us. He was immense for Rangers after.
Yeah, it was okay. It was decent. You could see something, couldn't you?
Yeah, it wasn't immense for us. He never played for us like he played for Rangers, as well as he played for Rangers, I don't think. From what I can remember, anyway.
Yeah.
He was good.
I don't know.
He weren't like standout. Where were, but not. I don't know.
Ben's
I can't
talking
really remember. I was like 11, 12, so I can't really remember.
Yeah, I remember he came on obviously from Newcastle, and he came with pretty bad reviews from some Sheffield Wednesday because he'd been on Rutland at Wednesday. I remember him being pretty good. He scored a goal or 2, I think, and was a really good. a classic Steve Evans right back in terms of he was really positive, really energetic, trying to get forward a lot. I like Tavernier, and I don't know. Kelly Fobbs went all Sunday in there. Ben was all Sunday's biggest fan, literally his biggest fan. Don't know. Me. Any of the right backs you can think of?
No, I'm a Tabs fan, a big Tavernier fan. He was at the early part of his career, but in terms of quality, I thought he was outstanding.
Tabs over Wes Harding, Mick.
I love Wes, but yeah, absolutely.
Have you seen Wes has been linked with Wrexham?
I'm not surprised.
No.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think Tabs. It was only a short spell, but I think he made a big impact as well. We talk about that as well. So, centre halves. Last time we picked Martin McIntosh and Carrie Arneson, Mick. Just two wonderful players to watch. I'm not necessarily start on both because they're very similar players. They're not chalk and cheese like some have been really good, but two of the best kind of players to watch that play for us.
Yeah. I mean, Carrie Arneson. We've described Cam Humphries as a Rolls Royce of a player. I mean, if I don't know what's above a Rolls Royce, because Carrie Arneson were in front, weren't he? You know what I mean? He was the epitome of a Rolls Royce footballer, and there is no way that a greatest Rotherham United squad would not have Carrie Arneson in it. It's just that would be pointless, you know. He was fantastic. And not only that, he could drop into midfield as well, and be just as.
I loved him in midfield. He was so good in midfield.
Yeah. I think that was his better position.
Yeah.
But we'll stick with him where you put him. And as for Martin McIntosh, because Paul Stancliffe's going to be my next suggestion.
Okay.
He was a mountain, wasn't he? Absolute man mountain. And everything that you want from a centre half. But coming up in the comments, I've mentioned one already, and then there's another one that has to go in. There's two more that, for me, in my view, have to go in there.
Yes, we'll come on to the one that has to go in there in a minute because Ben hasn't seen him play. Ben, give me a bit more on Carrie Arneson. You must remember the big Icelandic man.
Yeah, just immense. I mean, that's it, really. Just immense. Kind of one of them players who's just so technical and so cool and so composed on the ball. And for a centre half in League One, I think at the time, that was with League One. Some of it.
League Two, he signed him with.
Yeah, so I mean, to be that composed at that kind of level, immense. And I don't really remember him playing. I remember the hype around him. The same way Alfie, I don't really remember them playing. But I just remember the hype around him. And I remember when Ajayi came, started comparing him to him, and same with Humphries. So, but yeah, he was, from what I do remember, the very little that I remember. Don Valley, or was that too early?
No, he came to New York first year in New York.
Oh right, yeah. See, I can't really remember that season.
Okay,
I can't really remember. That's a little bit too early for me, but
fair enough.
I might remember a good player.
Yeah. Also, I think, and I might be wrong, I think it was the first guest we had on this show. I think it was the first former player we talked to.
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah,
and he was such a nice guy to talk. Just typically Scandinavian, wasn't he?
Typically Scandinavian, because it took us about 3 weeks to tie him down. 3 different times to actually tie him down. But we eventually got there, and it was absolutely fantastic to talk to him. Yeah, and we could have gone on for hours. Could have gone for hours talking to him.
Yeah, I also remember we were just playing with a Stanley knife while talking to us as well.
Yeah,
which was a bit weird. But yeah,
slightly menacing.
Yeah,
but I mean that kind of sums up the way he played. He was slightly menacing as well, wasn't he? You know.
Yeah. But then these players, somebody else mentioned Swales here. These players wouldn't be what they are without the partners. McIntosh wouldn't be the same without Swales, and Arnie wouldn't have been the same without Morgan, would he? So it's kind of harsh not to put him in, but you can't, can you?
No, absolutely. You're right. And it is very, very difficult. But because certainly we centre they tend to come as a partnership. You know, if you've got that partnership in the centre of defence, you're halfway there to having a top of the league or top area of the league team straight away if they've got that partnership and understanding. It's like having two strikers with the same understanding, isn't it?
Yeah.
And over the years, we've been lucky enough to have, like you said, those partnerships with McIntosh and Swales and like you said, Arnie and Captain Morgan.
Yeah. Chris Page, yeah, Gary Nelson kept Cristiano Ronaldo quiet in the game, won the league with Malmo, played at Real Madrid, played the World Cup against Messi, and obviously against Ronaldo in the Champions League as well.
Yeah.
Some career that, but I think he's not director of football or something. It's something to do with the Viking club, isn't he?
Reykjavik.
Well, I think we're in Europe at the minute, but that's another story. So Michael Connell says Samir Jai. Scott Gunny says Stancliffe. Scott Gunny also says Nigel Johnson. Might notice Stancliffe alongside Jimmy Mullin at centre back were formidable. Forrest at right back, Brex at left back, Ray in goal. Wow, 8 goals conceded in 23 games at Millwall. It's just an incredible record. But Mick, something who's got to really get in because Dave Watson. Now, he is before all of our times.
Yeah.
But look at what you talk to anybody who watched Dave Watson play, Mick, and they literally cannot speak highly enough of him as a Rotherham player. And then he went on to play 50, 60 times for England as well. It's just, he can't not be in this squad.
No, he can't. And he went to play at the top level as well. I can't remember where he went. I'm sure he played at Everton for a while. I'm not going to say Man City, but I'm not sure that he weren't at City as well. I can't remember. But yeah, the only Rotherham United player to go on and play for England after his career with Rotherham United, and it was just before my time. He'd gone just before I sort of. I'm sure I probably did watch him, but I would have been about 4 years old, so I wouldn't have known. But yeah, I mean, you cannot leave him out.
No, he played 120 times for Rotherham. Sorry. He went to Sunderland and played 170 times, winning the FA Cup. Is that the famous cup for Sunderland? That one, 73.
Bobby Stoker one, possibly. Yeah. I can't remember. I don't know.
He also went to the League Cup with Manchester City. Played 146 times Manchester City. Went to Europe, went to America, and 65 appearances for England between 74 and 82. He becomes
spectacular, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's some career. That is some career.
Yeah, it is. The next one then is where we come into a conversation about what qualifies you for this because Richard Wood is obviously due a testimonial in 2 weeks' time, and in my lifetime of watching Rotherham, there's not many players made such an impact on a club than Richard Wood. Now, he wasn't the best. He absolutely was not the best defender we've ever had. Maybe not even in the top 5 or 10 defenders we've ever had. But there was something about him that if I was creating a team, I would always have a Richard Wood or a Richard Wood type player in my squad. So for me, I will fight to the death to have Richard Wood in this.
I think yes. Obviously, I don't know. I don't really know any of these players, right? I've heard the names. I've never really watched them play, so I don't think I am the one that's kind of qualified, if you want to say this. But
your opinion's always valid, Ben.
I know. Thank you, but he has to go in my opinion, because he's not the greatest, but is it what qualifies it? Because what's greatest? You know what I mean? The moments that he gave us, the 2 goals at Wembley as a centre half. You know what I mean? He got promoted that year. Literally got promoted that year, and I mean the things that he's done off the field. I mean, he has to go in. In my opinion, he has to go in. The impact that he's had on the club. If you want to talk about how good somebody is, it don't really matter unless they have an impact on the club, whether that's on the field or off the field. So if you want to talk about the greatest team, is it the greatest impact on the club, or is it greatest player, greatest technical player? What is it? You know, whatever it is, I think he has to go in.
I could not agree more. You put that very, very well. This is the good thing we do in the squad. I think if you're doing 11, I probably won't get in because of the 3 other people we've mentioned. But I think doing a squad, Mick, you can't not build a Rotherham United squad. He's the greatest captain we've ever had. He's 3 promotions, a Wembley win. He's the greatest captain the club's ever had.
Yeah, he is. He's been fantastic, absolutely amazing for the football club. and I can't argue with anything that you said there. And it all boils down to your definition of greatness, I guess, doesn't it? You know, but is this about sentiment, or is this about, you know, who's the best? And I'd be harsh to say that probably not. I think they're probably better centre halves. And then, you know, if we want to win this league, we've got to have the best players in our squad.
Okay, fair enough. Who would you have above him?
I don't know.
That's no good to me, is it?
I think there's not. Sorry, I think there's a lot of players. I mean, in my lifetime, I think there's a lot of players better. I think Blackett and Humphreys are better. Yeah. I think they go above him in terms of technical ability or whatever. But it's kind of the impact on the club and the impact on the team, I think.
Who you got in there, Matt?
Martin McIntosh, Gary Arneson, Dave Watson, and Richard Wood now.
Paul Stancliffe. 100% Paul Stancliffe.
This could be one of the positions where you add.
Yeah.
We're doing a 26-man squad. Is that what we're doing?
I think you can justify a 25-man squad because that's what you're getting. That's what you're allowed in the EFL nowadays.
Yeah. I think this is an extra position then, maybe.
We've got kind of 3 spare spots, and we've covered 2 by Mike Point and Paul Stancliffe already. This could get silly, but yeah.
I think we'll be able to no, sorry.
Okay. Michael says, "How far back are you going, Dave Watson? The best we've ever had." Yeah, Dave Watson, he's absolutely in. Matt Miller's mentioned the 6-0 against Chelsea, 3rd hat trick. More scored 2-1 penalty in Brecon. He also said Mike Miller says that Chelsea had 2 penalties, 1 penalty retaken, and Ray Mountford saved both of them.
He did, yeah.
Yes, I think Paul Rhodes says we beat them 4-0 at their place. It was 4-0, 4-1. It was like a 10-goal aggregate win of the season.
Yeah, I think it was 4-0 at theirs at Stamford Bridge. Yeah.
Right.
Beautiful.
Left backs. I don't think. Well, maybe I'm not sure. I bet how much Ben's going to know about left backs, to be honest with you, because we've not had some classics over the last 10, 15 years. The guy that got in last time, Mickey's John Breckin. Now we all know the impact that John Breckin's had as a man at the football club with his post-footballing career. But talk to me about John Breckin as the footballer. I've seen the lovely long blonde hair. Seen that. I've got that ticked. That's a point towards getting in. But how good a footballer was he?
If you want a picture that sums up the 1970s, just look at the picture, a black and white picture of John Breckin. That is the 70s. You know, his big winged collar on those Rotherham shirts and that. I don't know what it is. That hair, but he was fantastic at left back. Absolutely solid as a rock. John Breckin really was. He's an old school. Obviously, we're talking late 70s, early 80s football here. So it's very, very different to the way it is today. And technically, I would argue probably by today's standards, technically he wasn't very good. By today's standards. However, the impact he had on the team and his ability as a left back in his time was just fantastic. It was outstanding. And you've pointed it out already. You know, he was an absolute mainstay of a team that conceded 6 or 8 goals all season at home. You know, how can he not get in?
Yeah.
It was fantastic. And like Mike said there, just a wholehearted player. You know, that we've seen nowadays, we see how much of his time he gives to this football club and to the town. That's how he played. That's exactly how he played. He was all in. A great player, great left back, but a much, much, much better bloke.
Yeah, fair enough. Any left backs that shout to you, Ben? Because again, they've all been kind of not very exciting. Joe Scars was here a couple of years, but was Mr. Dependable. Is there anybody else that shouts out? It's a difficult position for us.
Matic was there for a while, but he's not. I don't think he had. But it's one of them. I don't think he had a great impact on the team. With all due respect, I remember a late goal he scored against Pompey, header back stick. But that's it, really. That's all I can remember him doing. Left back's an hard position though to find someone who's really good.
Yeah, Richard Wood,
the good left back. the good left backs go to big clubs.
Yeah, of course they do.
Yeah.
Because left backs hard to find.
Yeah. I think that makes it quite easy, Mick. The other one is going to be Paul Hurst. You're doing two left backs. Paul Hurst has got to be in there. 10 plus years. I grew up with Paul Hurst, and it was just he didn't even have to ask. All you needed to ask who were the 10 players that were playing, because Paul Hurst was always going to be one of those players playing through the late 90s, and it was part of the double promotion winning team. To go from Division 3 to Division 1, Mick, and to keep his place and to earn his place and to keep Scott Minto out of the team for a period as well. I think Hurst has got to be in there.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Scott Minto. I'd forgotten about Scott Minto. He was a good player, a very, very good player. Came from West Ham. I mean, he got some proper quality about him, and still to this day holds a torch for Rotherham United. Whenever he speaks about the club, he speaks with passion and a bit of love in his voice about our club, which is great. For a man who obviously don't come from the town, but he obviously enjoyed his time with us. I remember with Hursty, it was as he was coming through, and we were getting questions. It was the very, very, very early days of the internet, and I remember sort of those sort of chat rooms that they used to have talking about the game today and everything else, and who should be playing and blah 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 blah. And I remember sitting reading these chat rooms 2 years on the trot, slagging off Paul Hurst, saying, yeah, he's done a great job for us, but he's not going to be good enough in League One or in First Division. He's not in Second Division, as it was then. Not going to be good enough. And then literally 12 months later, yeah, Paul Hurst's been great this season, but he's not going to be good enough in Championship. And then next season, here we go again. And that's, how long ago is that now? 25 years ago. And here we are still having exactly the same conversations. But in person this time. Yeah, he was a very, very good player, Hurst. Really good and a fantastic servant for the club.
Yeah. He's getting in. That's what it is. Scott Grundy says Martin Scott and Phil Crosby, Mick. Anything on those two? Okay.
Don't remember that name. Sorry, Scott.
Down mentions Martin Scott as well.
Yeah.
I think that does ring a bell, that one. So that's the defence, kind of sort of with two asterisks, potential other ones. So let's move forward into the attacking areas, the exciting areas of the pitch. Right wingers, we're going to start with. Mick, just give us your standard Tony Towner praise and how much
you don't need. Nobody needs to hear me sing the praises of Tony Towner ever again. I've done it so many times on this podcast, and I just love him. My favourite ever, very close, probably just about my favourite ever Rotherham United player. Just immense, just beautiful to watch. He was just an absolute typical right winger, chalk on his boots, and he would run. He would just leave people for dead. Just ran defenders ragged. Fantastic player, and one of the arguably one of the few actual legends to go to Legends Night. One of the few who would really genuinely justify the term legend, club legend, because he is 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't mean that to sound in any way disparaging for anybody else who's been there, because Ronnie and Brex are there every time, and they are also two legends of the club. But Tony Towney, we anybody of a certain age, if you mention that name to him, to them, they will just wax lyrical about him.
Fair. Towner's legend, as says Richard. Mike Miller says Ty came to Rotherham at the same time alongside Ronnie and John Seaman. What a trio!
Yeah.
Just Miller says rumour has it Mick had hair when he saw him play.
That is true.
So Tony Towner's in. The one that stands out for more recent times, which one, Mike? Go on, Mick.
Well, just because ironically, I saw Tony Towner a few weeks ago, and he's still got more hair than I've got. After all this time, the lad's in his 70s, he's got so much more hair than I've got. Then I don't like him quite so much.
The modern day right winger, Mick, Ben. Sorry, I'll come to you for this one because I know you know this one. 𝐁𝐞𝐬𝐭 𝐂𝐥𝐮𝐛 may be controversial, but he was one of the best right wingers I can remember seeing for the club. If I was going to play left back, which would be a terrible idea, and I'm going to design a player to come up against me, 𝐁𝐞𝐬's the last guy I want to see come up against me. He's quick. He can push people off the ball. His crossing isn't as bad as what people make it out to be. He's gone on to play in the Premier League and done very well in the Premier League for a season. It's difficult to argue against 𝐁𝐞𝐬 for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, when you're not playing well and everyone in the crowd's explanation is we're not getting 𝐁𝐞𝐬 the ball enough. When you have to do that with a player, you know, when the player's that good and it's like, we're not playing very well, get him the ball. He's automatically an immense player. He was so good for us. He developed a lot. I thought it was obviously a one-trick pony when he came, kind of just speed, and he's obviously developed that. Which helped set up the Gillingham moment. So he's got to go in there, in my opinion. But I mean, I'm not gonna badmouth Tony Towner because I don't want to get.
You'd never get inside New York Stadium again.
Yeah, I don't want to get people outside my window with torches banging on my door trying to get me done. So
yeah. Shelley says Cherryberry, Cedric, 𝐂𝐥𝐿, not 𝐂𝐥𝐿 at Rotherham was defo the best he's been. That's an interesting one because he's a striker for me. I know he played a lot of his time at right wing, but he was a striker, and I don't know. He's a very hard one to pin down. I'm not convinced I'd pick him anyway. Mick talked. There's a couple of people that mentioned Chris Sedgwick and Trevor Berry. Now, Trevor Berry didn't come to mind, which is wrong because I loved Trevor Berry when I was a kid. But I also loved Sedgy as a kid. But are either of those better than 𝐁𝐞𝐬?
Difficult, and Sedgy technically was a really, really good player, and he kind of came in my head. I know there's probably a big gap in between, but he came not massively long after. It was quite a while after Tony Towner, to be fair. But it felt like maybe we've got a replacement finally after all these years. But he never quite. He flattered to deceive, did Sedgy, didn't he? He never quite. I feel bad because we've had him on and he's been great and he's a lovely bloke and everything else. But I just don't think, I'm not convinced he ever really achieved his potential.
Certainly not us.
Yeah, certainly not with us. And then, you know, he didn't play for anybody else, did he?
With Preston, he got to playoff final with Preston.
Yeah, but then his career went completely downhill, and that was that because he ended up playing for a non-football club, didn't he? So, you know, I mean, you've got to take that into account as well, poor lad. Yeah, for me, I don't think he quite achieved his potential with us. I think Trevor Berry did, and I love Trevor Berry, absolutely fantastic. He was kind of another one that was kind of just not quite. It's going to be. It's a bit late with Trevor Berry and Chris Sedgwick. It's going to be like Dylan Phillips and this other goalkeeper. You know, the shoes that they were filling, they were never going to fill. Yeah. And so for those of us who'd seen what came before, it was very difficult to, you know, to get excited about it, you know. Yeah. Whereas 𝐁𝐞𝐬, on the other hand, you could get excited about 𝐁𝐞𝐬. Yeah. You could watch him. We saw how he developed, as you've already said, with us. You know, he came as just a pace man and left as not the complete player by any stretch of the imagination, but much closer to being that. Still no Tony Towner, in my view.
No. I'll put Trevor Berry on the maybe list then. Because I did have to like Trevor Berry. I can be persuaded. But I think we have to go 𝐁𝐞𝐬. I think.
Well, I mean, you say that, and then all of a sudden up pops in Bradley, and he's absolutely right. Richard Finney he came after Tony Towner. He played with Tony Towner for a while, but came after him and kind of took that position and was an excellent player, and another great servant for the football club. both on and off the pitch. You know,
Yeah,
tough position. We've had some fantastic players in that position. I would argue, and there's somebody else just put another name, but we'll come back to that because I'm not convinced we're a right winger.
okay.
Yeah, fantastic players. I like Rich Finney.
Let's move on to, so we've got Tony Towner and Chio as right wingers. That's where we've settled for now.
Okay.
Central midfielders. We've only got one. We've taken Will Vaulks out. Can you justify putting Will Vaulks back in?
No.
Fine. I agree. Unanimous. The one that is still in there, Ben, and we talk about impacts on clubs, Lee Frecklington, is similar to Woody in terms of the impact they had on the club. What I would say is, if I ignore the impact Frecklington had and look at the technical ability of the player, Freck would still be in there because Frecklington was a wonderful midfielder.
Yeah, again, I mean, there's no debate at all, in my opinion. He's got to be in there. Still remember that older shot goal. That is that's one of my earliest memories. Is him just curling it round to keep the edge of the box, and everyone running on the pitch. That is one of my earliest memories of football. He's got to be in there. I mean, I still remember the volley he scored when he was coming towards the end of his career, and we won 5-0. Yeah, was it? Yeah, we won 5-0. That volley was just immense.
Yeah.
You know, even at the end of his career and the end of his time. But yeah, I mean, what a person, what a player. Two club player. I'm not wrong.
No, he played for 3: Lincoln, Peterborough, and Ulls. I think there may have been somebody else, but mainly just 3.
But I mean, Lincoln love him, and I mean, when you're loved by more than one club, by the fan bases like love, you got to be a special player and a special human being, and I mean, he's in there, no debate whatsoever.
Matt's complaining about your microphone, Mick. We are aware of Mick's microphone issues, but we are trying to resolve it. We're going to have to deal with it, but that's all right. We're going to get ready for Sunday's episode, so you have to deal with that. So that's fine. Yeah, exactly. Just on Freck briefly, Mick, because he's one I really want to get on podcast. He's one of the guys we've tried a few times. We haven't been successful yet, but I'd love to get Freck on. So he was great at Legends Night, and he is obviously a legend. But you can hang so many moments on Lee Frecklington, so many moments just on the man. And that's how many players have played for this football club and been really, really good players, but just not quite. I will come on to Alfie in a minute. Alfie doesn't have a moment for this football club, really, but he was amazing. Frex has about 4 or 5 moments. You just think what a career he had just for us.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as you grow up, you have a footballer that you fall in love with, and they're there for the rest of your life. You know, and Tony Towner was that man for me. He was just. I fell in love with him growing up, and he was just the best person, the best player I'd ever seen, and nobody ever would take his place. And then along comes Lee Frecklington, and it's like, you know what? I just honestly, it's so difficult for me. You can't get a sig paper between the two of them in terms of being my favourite players. I love Lee Frecklington. Everything that he did, he was just how he didn't play at a really high level, at the highest level. He had the ability, he had everything, absolutely everything you want of a midfielder, box-to-box midfielder. Just wonderful, a wonderful, wonderful player. And you know, there is no way that he wouldn't get in.
No. He also made you break your glasses once, if you remember the Middlesbrough late win against Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
And he owes you a pair of glasses, so you've got to come on podcast.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. I've still got those glasses. I've still got them. There's no glass in them, but I've still got them.
Right, we've got space for 3 other midfielders here. Because we took Vaults out, we've got loads of room for other midfielders. Let me go modern again, Ben. Dan Barlasser. Talk to me about Dan Barlasser and if he should be in the squad.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not aware of the central midfielders that we've had in the past. I'm sure I've had some amazing ones. But I mean, again, even on just quality. I mean, just amazing. You know what I mean? And I'm sure he will be in the Premier League in a couple of years if he stays at Middlesbrough.
He's been linked with Turkey, hasn't he? He's already been linked with move to Turkey.
He's an immense player. He is an immense. When we signed him, so when we got him on loan, did we get him on for 2 years and then sign him or 1?
Just 1 year, just the COVID. That's the season
Yeah.
that ended early because of COVID.
Well, it was one of them loan players. It was like when we got Izzy Brown or Grant Ward. It was like we got a loan player and it was immense for us. There's no way we're going to sign him. No way we're going to be able to sign him. And then he came to us for what, like 200k, something like that.
Just under 500, I think.
Was it? But like, mate, honestly, when he came, I've never been was surprised and excited about a player because he was so good and he only got better. That last season for us, he was just immense, in my opinion. One of the best passers I've ever seen live.
Yeah. It's one of those for a club like us, we're allowed to say that. For a club like us, players like Barlas don't come around very often, do they? Yeah. We might make mention of Steve Thompson a few times, but we get Dan Barlas as once every 20 years, something like that.
Well, no, I would disagree with that because in recent times, I feel like we've got some really good loan players, but they're only here for 6 months or a year. Barlas was here for... We only get players like that stay every once in a generation because we've had some really talented players, but they've never stayed and achieved things with us like Barlas was.
Yeah. Ian Bradley says Barlaser was quality. Shelley says, not sure I've seen anyone with a better vision than Dan Barlaser. And a great guy. Well, again, I had him on the podcast. A lovely fella talking to us from Meadowhall Car Park just before Christmas was a moment for us. Can you argue against Dan Barlaser, Mick? I think we've lost Mick altogether now. This has gone right well. Mick's gone to get a microphone to hopefully improve his sound quality.
Oh, there we go.
Does it? Clearly doesn't work, does it? Obviously.
No.
Technophobe. Yeah, it's a tough position. It's such a tough position. It really is. You mentioned I talked about Steve Thompson. You know, you've got Carl Robinson in there as well from earlier on. Yeah, there were some amazing players in there. Jerry Gow from the 70s. I might just like to add in there former England captain Emlyn Hughes.
Was he good for Rotherham though? Well, how good was he for Rotherham?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a hell of a player. And there are names coming up now. You know, Johnny Quinn, Darren Garner, perhaps. You know, Grealish. So you know there are so many players that have been in that centre of that midfield whose names they just trip off the tongue as a Rotherham United supporter. Dan Barlaser was absolute quality. Was he as good as Steve Thompson? There was a close run thing that Tomo was just an immense player, just a beautiful player who was 5, 6, 10 yards quicker than everybody else in his head. You know, I don't think Barlaser quite had that vision and that time.
Different end of the careers, though, weren't they? To be fair,
they were. Yeah, absolutely, they were. They were very similar players, but you know, like you say, at the end of the career, different ends. So Tomo had a lot more experience, and the name keeps popping up in the comments, and nobody's mentioned it. I feel bad for not mentioning it. It's Sean Goodwin. You know, technically, probably one of the best midfielders Rotherham's ever had. Technically, and again, another player who should have gone on to play at the top level. Was caught up by Everton for a while, and that kind of almost didn't end his career, but it certainly put his career on a bit of on the skids a little bit. But yeah, a fantastic player was Reggie, a really, really good player. So good luck choosing from any of these because they should all be in there. You know, they absolutely should all be in there.
If we put Frex and Barlas, we have got room for 2 more central midfielders. So give me an argument for two of the names that have been mentioned. Like I said, a lot of people have mentioned a lot of different names in there.
Sean Goodwin, I think, has to go in there. Just but on the basis of, like I say, his technical ability was just unbelievable, absolutely amazing. And a local lad, a Rotherham lad, Rotherham United.
He won the Auto Windscreen Shield with us as well. To be fair,
he did. But another one that did not achieve what he was capable of, which is, it seems to be a theme that runs through the Rotherham United's history, you know, for whatever reason that is. But I'd have Raggy in there, I think.
Okay. That leaves us one spot for a central midfielder.
Too many.
We're going to narrow it down to one. Somebody mentioned Kev Watson. With similar mold. Kev Watson was an excellent midfielder as well. He absolutely was. Carl Robinson was one of the best loan players we've ever had. Only there for 10, 11 games. So I think it'd be difficult to justify putting him in, but he was brilliant. Who knows where we'd have gone? If Ronnie would have managed to convince Carl Robinson to come to us, who knows where Ronnie would have took that team, because he was one of the missing pieces. Jody Morris was excellent under Ronnie as well. Again, imagine where we're going to go if we managed to keep him. Anything else, Mick? Anybody else you want to pick out? Do you want to pick?
No, I don't think so.
We've only got 3. We've got space for one more.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were giving yeah. Let's have a bit of bite and fight in there. It's a toss-up. Shall we have Stuart Talbot or shall we have Jerry Gow?
Do you want Jerry Gow? Because he was Stuart Talbot were part of the double promotion winning team, weren't they? We haven't gone any further back, so let's go Jerry Gow, just because for midfielders and attacking players we are short on the older generation.
Okay.
Jerry Gow's in as a central midfielder.
Oh, Ian Bradley, will you please stop? Stop it. Jimmy Goodfella. Stephen Quinn from Quinn Adams.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just do a full episode on midfielders because we've had some absolute quality down years. But Jerry Gow was just, it was another level of aggression. Was that man? Another level.
Okay, fair enough. Left winger. I think this is an area where we will struggle. So this is where we will need some people in the comments to give us some help on left wingers. Because I think about it, for me, it's another area that we struggle. I can give you one name, and we'll go through Ben Pringle in a minute. But I feel like left wing's another area where we've got Andy Monkhouse. You've got a couple, but there's not like central midfield where you can roll off 10.
Alan Crawford,
okay. Ben, is there any other modern ones other than Ben Pringle, Ben, that you can think of?
Izzy Brown, maybe, but I don't think he's not really a left winger. But I don't think he compares to. I don't think he was here for long enough.
No.
But I mean, left wingers. I mean, have we ever had a left winger? Feels like we had a left winger for 5 years. I'm not used to having wingers.
No.
Don't know. Just put a striker there.
Well, Pringle's getting in, isn't he?
That was a Steve Evans joke, by the way.
Oh, okay. Alan Crawford. A few people mention Alan Crawford. Mick, talk to me about Alan Crawford. People that don't remember.
He was for me was the left wing version of Jerry Forrester at right back. He was just that kind of player. It reminded me so much. They both reminded me so much of each other, not only in their appearance, but in the way that they were, the way that they played, the style that they had. I think somebody, I think it was Ian and Mike have mentioned 31 goals as a left winger
in one season. Wow! Just
absolute quality.
He only scored 49 for us, it says here.
Well, 31 of them were in one season.
Fair
enough. That is pretty impressive. You can't not get in with a season like that, to be fair. No, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Phenomenal.
Ben Pringle, we haven't really talked about Ben Pringle, but I think he's someone we've had on podcast 2 or 3 times now.
I love him.
Still the best left foot I've seen at Rotherham United. Still the best left foot. If we're going to design a football, if I had to make a football a bit by a bit, I'd still have Ben Pringle's left foot. It absolutely still be the one. So yeah, that he's in as is Alan Crawford. Centre forward again becomes one of those where you go, bloody hell, we've got to leave him out and leave him out. And the two that got in last time were Adam Lafondra and Bobby Williamson, Mick. I mean, you've got Ronnie Moore, who was incredible as a footballer. Ronnie Fern, who was his partner, who is again great. But then you've got the old ones that we don't remember. Is it Gladstone Guest, who's the record goal scorer? We mentioned Wally Ardron, who's got 90 goals in 100 and something appearances. This becomes a difficult one because the goal records of Gladstone Guest and Wally Ardron, you can't ignore those. But Adam Lafondra, for example, for me, is just the best, most lethal man in the box I've seen from the club.
it's really difficult. It's really, and we had lots of sort of I can't remember. I don't know what the word is, but discussions, shall we say, over who should and shouldn't get in last time. Ronnie Moore didn't make the cut, and that arguably was not the right decision. But you know, the two that got in terms of Alfie and Bobby Williamson were just immense. But then you start to look at some of the other players, and obviously Ronnie has to go in there.
If Wood is in there, I think Ronnie has to go in there.
But if you're going to put Ronnie, you can't miss out Rodney Fern, because Rodney Fern was just as good as Ronnie Moore. He just didn't have that. It was the charisma side of it that Fernie didn't have. You know, he had this haircut, but with comb over, and but he was just deadly. It was absolutely deadly. But there are so many more. There are so many more. Dave Gwither, who Ian's mentioned, was just an absolute bulldozer of a centre forward. Maybe didn't have the goal record that Ronnie and Fernie had, but when you put Rodney Fern and Ronnie Moore together, they were just. We talked earlier on about that centre back partnership. When you've got that centre back partnership, Ronnie and Rodney Fern were just. They were just perfect together. They were absolutely perfect together, and those two have to go in. I'm sorry, but those go in.
So here becomes the problem, right? And I agree, I understand what you're saying, but then you're not putting Alan Lee in, for example. We haven't mentioned Alan Lee in all that conversation, and nobody in the comments has mentioned Alan Lee yet either. Again, we talk about impacts on football clubs. The impact Alan Lee, you saw him at Legends Night. He's like royalty at Rotherham United. He's not a legend. He's kind of above that Alan Lee almost. But then how do you fit him into all this?
Well, I mean, it's very difficult. And Mike makes a valid point here in terms of Rodney Fern. He wasn't actually a centre forward. He was a number 10. He kind of played behind Rodney. But it's got so many. But yeah, nah. Those four for me. I'm sticking with them.
So you're not chucking Alan in?
Well, we can have, maybe it can be one of our three over and above the.
They could have 4 in already.
Well, you know.
Ben, talk to me about players that you remember probably bits of the Alfie. Again, some of on the podcast, it was a great guy. Ian Bradley said Alfie was the best finisher I've ever seen in a Miller's shirt. I'd love to see him in the obviously I would as well. Anybody in the sort of the modern era that you think is worth a shout as a striker? It's not been great since probably 𝐂𝐥𝐿 left, to be honest. I'm being harsh on Smith.
Blackstock.
Next to Blackstock, we can have a conversation. If
we
you
on
like.
best. We on best. No, I think Alfie. I mean, I don't really remember. I remember Don Valley a little bit, but I was really young. I was 6, maybe 5 or 6 when I was at Don Valley. When we were at Don Valley, 6 or 7. So can't really remember it. But I just remember the one thing that sticks out about in my mind when I was young is Alfie. Just everybody talking about him, everybody loving him, and just
goal machine.
Yeah, I didn't really understand who he was until 2015 or whatever, and I started looking back at some of the goals and Mick showed me his overhead kick that he scored, a penalty spot or whatever. So I think Alfie's got to be in there. I think Ronnie's got to be in there. I mean, I obviously never saw him play or manage, but if you want to talk about impact on clubs and Frex is in there and Woody's in there, I think Ronnie's got to be in there. You know what I mean? So I think Ronnie's going to be in there. And then apparently I was allegedly nearly named after Alan Lee. So I'm going to put him in. I would like him to be in the squad just for that. So I'd go for them 3 and then, I don't know.
Would you have liked to have been called Alan then, Ben?
I won't mind it, mate. I won't mind it.
The thing with Alfie was, I might say Alfie was the best fox in the box, not sure best out-and-out striker. But whenever I turned to a game and Alfie was playing, it was just kind of like, opposition need to score at least 2 to beat us because Alfie's going to score. Obviously, that wasn't always the case, but that's how it felt going into the game as a fan. And look what he did at Reading. You know, Reading he's a legend at Reading as well for the goals he scored to get them promoted to the Premier League. He's a legend at Bolton for the goals that he scored. For the goals
He had a record
there.
in Prem as well for most goals off a bench or something.
I think if he doesn't still hold the record, it's only recently got broken as most goals off a bench in a season, I think, or something like that. He won Player of the Month, didn't he? And if you listen to the podcast we did with him, he was very close to an England call-up at one point as well. Very close to an England call-up. So go back and listen to the podcast.
Very close to a Pigs call-up, which he binned off, didn't he?
Just told him to do one, didn't he? So that's automatically in the score for telling Pigs to do one.
That's automatic entry into the greatest squad of all time. Turning that shower down.
Honourable mention: Sean Gota, Scott Gunny loved League Love. I like League Lover as well. Jason White was also very, very good under the early days of Ronnie Moore.
Yeah.
Bazza says Kiefer Moore. Kiefer Moore's one of those. If he stayed longer, probably he would have made it into this. But
he was immense, Kiefer Moore.
He was unplayable at League One.
Yeah.
He was far too good for League One.
Yeah.
Richard Gisbert Boss.
Of course. Oh, why? He's right. Game over.
There we go. Michael Oates mentions Revs made an impact. He did. You're right. He did. Yeah. But Revs was never. I never felt Revs was an amazing footballer. I think he had moments in him. Obviously, they went with the Wembley moment, but I never thought it was great. Certainly not great. Where I think these are all proper finishers and proper strikers that we've picked so far. So there's your 22 that we've covered, and now we need to narrow down the 4. So the 4 extra we've noted down are Mike Pollitt, Stancliffe, Trevor Berry, and Alan Lee. Who are you dropping from that, Mick?
Just say that again. Sorry, I missed that.
Mike Pollitt, Stancliffe, Trevor Berry, or Alan Lee. Which one do you want to drop? You're a Pollitt, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sorry, because he was an immense goalkeeper, but we've got 2 fantastic goalkeepers there.
Okay. Ben, you don't remember any of those players. Is it put any point me asking you that question?
No, I don't think so.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. I'm gonna rate mess me paper. Look at all this.
You're not handwritten, have you? You're not handwritten, have you? Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
It's only me that's
boss is definitely in
there. People have mentioned, Ian Bradley and Richard both said drop Pollitt, which is fine and fair. I am very happy that Trevor Berry gets in this squad, to be fair, because I love Trevor Berry. And again, we've spoken to the podcast, he was a top guy. So I am happy that Trevor Berry gets, just for the Burnley goal, first time live on Sky and does that out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Talk about impacts. So I'm going to run through it again. It's going to take me 20 minutes to read my handwriting, but the goalkeepers we've gone for Ray Mountford and Victor Johansson. The right backs we've gone for Jerry Foyst and James Tavernier. Stancliffe's the right back, is he?
No, he's a centre half.
Okay, so centre halves, Paul Stancliffe, Martin McIntosh, Carrie Arneson, Dave Watson, and Richard Wood. Left backs we've gone Brex and Hursty. Right wingers we have gone for Tony Towner, Chio, and Trevor Berry. And central midfielders we've gone Frex, Barlas, Sean Goodwin, Jerry Gow. Left wingers we've gone Ben Pringle and Alan Crawford. And for strikers we've gone Alfie, Bobby Williamson, Ronnie Moore, Rodney Fern, and Alan Lee. They do all
right. See you in a minute.
All right.
I think we could do better in that centre half, in that middle. Sorry, not centre half, in that midfield. But anyway, we'll be here all night.
We could do another 3 episodes on this, I think.
Yeah, and another 3 squads.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Now we just to track them down and get them all up podcasts so we can talk to them all. Some of them we've already spoken to, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
Ian Bradley, I mentioned, where's Swales? I know, Ian. I know. There's just too many people to pick from. So if any former players are watching, I'm sorry I missed you out, but there's just too many of you. And that's just what I remember. You know what I mean? There's other people who's watching it loads for us. So, anything else you want to mention, boys?
I mean, no, there's just too many. There's too many to talk about, and we've not got Carl Robinson in there, which I'm disappointed about. We've not got quite a few of the others as well. That I really just feel that. Anyway, whatever, Can't have them all, can we?
Yeah.
Tomo. Who's Tomo? Why ain't Tomo in there?
Anyway, man, another aspect about best manager. That's another show in itself, maybe. We may have to do another episode with best managers. This has been a good episode. I've really enjoyed doing this, by the way. Looking back, maybe we should do this more often. When we did last time, we did them all pre-recorded, which were good and we enjoyed them. But I really enjoyed going through the comments as well with people who were with us live and reminding us of some great players. So we may do another one of these for other things, not another squad. Another one. But that's it for now. We will be back on Sunday. Shelley's mentioning more players.
Well, you have to again. Ian's what is wrong with you people? And Nuttall, get lost.
Back Sunday. That will be a normal service. So we're going to look back at the signings we've made today. We're going to look back at the players that have left since we last did a show that's Rotherham United related. There will be a special episode next Thursday, which we're going to talk to Ali from Not the Top 20 podcast. And we're going to ask him what he thinks about Rotherham's signings and summer transfer window. We're going to ask somebody who's actually knowledgeable rather than us. We're going to ask somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. So that's scheduled to be next Thursday, which we'll be out with instead of this standard episode. And then the season's coming up. But we're doing a pre-season prediction episode and all this other stuff in the next couple of weeks as well. So do subscribe to YouTube if you haven't done already. If you're on iTunes or Spotify, make sure you've subscribed on there as well. If you haven't followed us on Twitter, make sure you follow us on there as well. And we're getting close to the season. I'm really looking forward to the season starting, especially after reminiscing now. I'm kind of ready for football to start again. So hopefully it's here soon. Mick, thank you. We will sort out your microphone, hopefully.
Thank you very much. That'd be nice.
Yeah. And Ben, it's been. I know you feel like you've been not been helpful, but you have been very helpful. I appreciate the modern voice on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to the RUFC and Lee McMahon for the new intro and outro that we have, which has debuted tonight. We appreciate those guys loads. And thank you very much. And see you next time. And up the Millers.
Up the Millers.
I think I always made the comment that once a Miller, always a Miller.
Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! Good heavens, he's done it again. Another promotion for the big man.
I've got 12 bottles of champagne in my office and we're going to drink them all night.
Do me a favor, drop me off in